right, guys. I thought I was flying solo, but I got my man Jason coming on, give us some wisdom, and I got Cody over here. He's struggling with the Dolphins, but he came on being a nice guy. So, hope you guys are all doing well. I'm recovering from a long night of sushi and drinking on my anniversary. So I'm glad you guys came on and helped me through this, man. I'm ready for bed. How's everybody doing tonight? Oh, look at that. You got the little drinkage over there. So,
doing
good. Everybody doing good?
Yep. Yeah.
Sure.
Good to see you, Jason.
Good to see you, Cody. Merry Christmas, bro.
Yeah, man. I can't believe it's almost here again. I just feel like it was every time I turn around, every year it gets faster and faster, man. It's crazy. It's crazy how fast it's getting.
Hey, what's up? Hooked up, Joe. Everybody in the comments.
Get your mind off a bit, at least got the holidays. So no matter what, whether Dolphins are good or bad, can't be in a bad mood in the holidays, man.
Especially, you got kids too, right? You got kids, Jason?
I don't, no.
Oh, you don't? Oh, yeah. Then you don't get to enjoy the joy of it, man. You're watching those kids, man. They're so amped up. It's like presents, food. We're gonna hang out, Daddy. It's so cool. Yeah, it's great, man.
I got my niece and nephew though. I'll go visit them on. I'm gonna go the day after Christmas for my brother. He's he works on Christmas Day. He's a firefighter, so I'm gonna go surprise them on the day after and go hang out with the family and open some presents with the kids. So do that the day after. So it's kind of a good day to go after football and Christmas and stuff, So
You ain't kidding. It's just a beautiful time of the year. I'm in a place where there's no snow. I miss the snow. I love being in New York during Christmas time. You get like some nice snow and stuff. Here it's just like forever. It's forever sun. I miss the
snow. No snow here. You get Cody and Wyoming, obviously.
Yeah, I got some snow. I love this time of year, but I don't like digging out cars and getting stuck. But I'm a teacher, so I get the next 16 days off. You know what I mean? Like I get a long Christmas break. It's part of my salary, so it's like it's Friday, man. Just got done. I'm starting my break, so I feel no matter what you said, like no matter what Miami does, I'm still on break with my family and get to sleep in and do whatever I want.
That's a nice one. I'm taking 2.5. I don't ever do it, man. I'm like a workaholic, but Christmas Eve, I'm off. Christmas, I'm off. And then my birthday's the day after. I turned 53. So I'm actually taking 2.5 days off. My kids are like, no, you're not. I said, no, I am.
The day after Christmas is your birthday?
Yeah. I always get robbed. I've been robbed. I'm a Dolphins fan. I've been robbed the present since the day I was born, man. It was like I was destined to be a Dolphin fan, get robbed, man.
That's my son's birthday, and he's a Dolphins fan too. So we're repeating the cycle here.
Poor guy.
I apologize to him all the time.
So, bro,
I got to take 2 weeks off myself, so I got 2 weeks off.
Oh, nice.
Work at home, but still, I don't have to worry about anything till after the New Year's, so the 6th. So,
yeah,
that's nice, man. I love vacation. Sometimes. I always say I love vacation. Then 2 or 3 days into it, I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
Not me. No, I know what to do.
I know. I got issues, though. So, all right, let's get into it. Thank you for everybody stopping by. I know this is it's tough to be a Dolphins fan. I appreciate you hanging out with us tonight. I want to get into. First thing is Chris had said that he's like, when you get older, time moves faster. I think it's because from like some studies I read that when you're young, a year, is a huge chunk of your life. So it's the perspective of time. So the longer you live, every year is a smaller and smaller bit. You run through it so many times that time itself starts speeding up, but it's just your perspective on it from some studies that I've read. So it's like the older you get, it's like every year is just a smaller chunk, it's so quick, But when I remember being a kid and like 1 year felt like 10 years now, it's amazing. So anyway, Dolphins talk. All right, we got the San Fran. We got a bunch of stories this week. Anybody in the comments wants to bring up anything? Hey, Lucas, my man. My wife is the 28th. Yeah, it does suck, dude. I grew up in a poor family, and I always got the Christmas birthday present. It is your Christmas birthday present. I'm like, no, I want one of each. Nah, you didn't get it.
Yeah. No, my daughter's is the 30th too. So I got 2 kids born.
What did
right
you
after
do,
Christmas.
man?
And my wife figures it out.
Oh yeah. Well, you save on half your presents. You're a nice guy. You're probably getting them double for everything. Big teacher money.
We got him a car. He's turning 16.
Oh, your son's 16?
He's turning 16. Yeah.
Wow. Man, you were smart. You started early. I didn't start till I was like 40, man.
Yeah.
All right. So Jason, you had you had some really great observations last week. What do you think we're at right now? Anybody in the comments, put your stuff up. I'm trying to pay attention to them. So we'll answer all like comments or whatever, but I want to hear what you guys think. I mean, you guys hear about from me in the podcasts. You got to know where I'm at. What do you guys think? Well, Jason, start with you, man. What's your assessment?
The loss last week or about the Niners this week? Or kind of everything?
Yeah, and in the future, just last week, this week, and in the future, what's your perspective? What are you seeing? How you summarize it?
Man, it's tough to say. I mean, obviously, we got I think they need a big changes, but I'm not sure how much will happen right now. Obviously, Tua didn't play good last week. We're one dimensional. Obviously, isn't helping. I thought the defense played pretty good last week. Better, I thought the defense hung in there. I actually, if you really look at the defense this year, considering that they're the lack of depth, considering the age of everybody on the defense, considering we're missing our the injuries with the Phillips, Chubb, Shaq Barrett retiring, all that. I just think the defense has been a bit of a surprise. It's been a pleasant surprise for the most part. Obviously, they're not good when we get to play the really good offenses, but that's because they're just, again, I would look at our defense on paper and I would say that I wouldn't say they're a good defense, but I think they've played above their what I expected this year. I think they're a top 10 defense. I think we have a top 10 defense. So, I thought they really hung in there, kind of like they did in the Rams game, and gave the offense a chance to win it. But the mistakes in the red zone, it's just you can't have that, especially after the fumble right before half. Tua can't throw that ball. He should know better. You can't throw that ball, whether he's on the safety or not. We have to. I mean, and I honestly didn't like the fact that with 30 seconds left, I would have kind of ran it and just took the 3 points right there, because we could have cut it to 10-9 right before half. But and then we only had one timeout, or we used our last timeout. I can't remember what the scenario was. It was either we had one timeout left at the 30 or 32 yard line, and then whatever the scenario was, we didn't have much time. I think it got down to 20 something seconds, and then I just felt like the offense was going a little kind of like last year in the Jets game, Black Friday, where Tua threw that pick six when we had a 10-0 lead. It's like, just kind of take it easy. You got to understand the situation better. And I just think this team lacks terrible situational awareness. That goes for everybody, coaches, players. It doesn't seem like they're in lockstep with, the situation. You know what I mean? I don't understand the Texans are getting ball and you'd love to get 7 points, but the way that the first 2 plays that went, I just didn't think that we really had a chance at scoring a touchdown. So I would have focused more on maybe trying to get 3 points, get Sanders in a better spot.
We don't play small ball well. We don't play like patience ball. Everything is gotta score.
Right. And I think that the first 2 plays, because I believe the interception was on 3rd down. It was either 3rd down or we got the first down, and then we called the timeout. Whatever the situation was, though, I think we had like 20 seconds left. And again, we would have had to go with either one timeout or no timeouts. And it was just like, why push the envelope there? It's 10-6. You got a chance right before half to get points and cut it to a 1-possession game, even with the Texans getting the ball. I just think that that really showed in that spot. And then the second half, just the second half was just kind of not much by both offenses. Again, the Texans didn't do very much. We didn't do very much. Now this week, I don't like. I don't like this week. I don't know. I think the Niners are gonna have a good game. I know they're not playing their best right now. The Niners are. They're primed for a good bounce back with 10 days rest and everything, and with everything going on with us. But we'll see what happens if the defense keeps us close, and if the defense keeps it close, who knows? We'll see what happens. But I would expect the Niners to win this week if I were a betting man.
Yeah. I got some interesting stuff I pulled together. I pulled together the stats of the last 3 games. And I think there's like a clear area that's going to be like the battleground. We'll get into that in a little bit, but yeah, I agree. I just wanted to ask to Chris quick before we continue. Chris said sometimes the defense carries us and sometimes the offense does, really consistent. If you go and you watch and you go and look at what our defense usually does, if it's a bad offensive line, like an average offensive line, we usually have a good day. When they have a good offensive line, we struggle because that secondary gets exposed. And then conversely, it's almost the same thing in the converse. As long as they have a decent secondary, if they've got a good front, usually we struggle with that. So it's a lot of the problems that we had from my evaluation is the trench issues. And so like some people always talk like, why aren't we consistent? Because we have weaknesses on both the trenches, the defensive front. I think Campbell, I think Sealer, and even Chop, they're really good assets, but they're really thin past that and small.
Right.
And linebackers really can't get off blocks. And so when a good offensive line, just because we struggle with pass rush at times, so when that good offensive line just holds for a decent amount, then that secondary usually goes kaput. And the same thing when you got a good front and you can slow down that pass.
That's any secondary. Yeah. Anytime you can't ask your secondary to cover for 4 seconds in the NFL, depending on your opponent. It's just not. We're missing a good middle linebacker. I like Brooks. I really like him. I think he's
him as a will. I like him better as a will.
Right. He's going to be the guy who covers the backside of the backfield, tight ends, good matchup. I like, but we need that hammer in the middle. Obviously, that's what we're missing. I would love a guy like Harold Perkins from LSU would be a great, I like him. Harold Perkins, somebody like that in the middle. But we just need that middle linebacker. Obviously, our secondary is going to be a huge hole going into the offseason. O-line, I don't know. I'm just not optimistic how they can fix all of this with their cap issues, the lack of the picks the last 3 years. I'm just not I don't know. I really don't know what they can do. Even if they decided to blow it up and trade off who they can, I just don't know if it's going to be how quick this turnaround is going to be. Depending on what moves they make. But, the Dolphins, they'll probably do they'll get rid of this guy, and they'll just kind of keep the, same power structure in place.
Yeah.
As far as the GM goes.
I'm with you too. I think that if they try to keep this build and try to get themselves ready to win big, it's not going to work. They've got to just tear stuff down, reinstall good foundation, and then set up for like a 2-year, 3-year window where I think you can still have success, but you'd find more consistency because there's just a lot of rotted foundation that you got to cut out, Did last week prove that Waddle and Hill can be? Yeah, they can, because all you do is you rush 4, you drop 7, you play over, and you force them to throw short. And you could see some of the film, we can't adjust. We have no adjustment. So you get to the line of scrimmage, the linebackers are playing high leverage in the box, cover 2 safeties, and then you don't run inside when it's got the DNs, out in 6 technique, 5 technique, and you got the inside open. You can't do anything with that. It's very hard to throw when the defense has the initiative. And so I think – And Tyreek is a smaller guy. He's fast, and so you got to throw these spots, and everyone kind of knows the spots. And I like Tua a lot, but he can't throw the deep out, and that pigeonholes things. And so,
you don't have to account for him. If you're a defense, you don't have to account for him running. You don't have to account for and then where his strengths are. Like he can throw the out route, but he can't do it enough to where you're worried about the defense, to where you're worried about it as a defense. Because you saw McDaniel try to throw some outrights. You saw McDaniel try to throw some out routes, and he had Malik Washington a few times. They were short. They weren't deep.
Yeah.
They were shorter. But at the same time,
the one pick he had with Tyreek Hill was a deep out, and it was short, and Stingley undercut it. And that was like a good 15.
That was a good play by Stingley because Tyreek had a shot at it, and he just
not the last one, the second interception where he had an out. Yeah, he had the out, and it was behind him a little bit. It wasn't accurate. That's one of his weaknesses. Yeah. It's a legit. People complain about that who don't like Tua. It's a fair, but there's ways. That's what I don't understand is that you can open up that area. If you do certain things, if you run inside, you have play action, and you have a legitimate tight end that's attacking the middle and pulling guys into the center. We have very limited menu. Like, I don't understand. We open up the game and we didn't even open up with Jonnu at all. He wasn't even in there. And we're throwing the football against.
They were throwing. Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Because he's more of the pass catcher, at tight end. I think that I noticed it against the not the Packers, the Jets too. That Jonnu wasn't playing a lot early on. It was more it was more Durham Smythe and
It's like we always say we don't want to be predictable and have a tell. So we don't want Jalen Wright out there. We don't want to. What do you mean? Our whole offense is a tell. Like exactly what we're trying to do. Tua doesn't even go under center. I've just been watching so many games going, this looks a lot easier for these quarterbacks. And I think people maybe who don't watch a lot of games or they compare Tua against the team we're playing. And every time it is easier for the other quarterback. They're going under center. They have a good run game, or they have just an adequate to decent run game. And they're running a smart, easy offense. Everything is easy, Yeah. But for our team, everything is like this uphill battle. Nothing comes easy, and the easy stuff is almost impossible for us. If you can't be a 3rd and 1 team, like what are you ever going to really do? You're not.
Yeah,
we go,
and we have Alec Ingold too. Like he's not in enough on these short yardage situations. I don't see Ingold in enough. We go in the shotgun sometimes. We don't. Like you have to. We were doing the fullback dive for a while there on 3rd and 4th and 1,
now
and we were criticizing that, and then we didn't do that, and then now he's like not even on the field on 3rd, 4th and 1. I just don't think they do enough play action. I'm talking about, and I just wonder. Action. It makes me think, real play action where you fake, and and I know you need a run game, but I really wonder how much the injuries to Tua or his, I really wonder how much that affects the design of the offense, the getting the ball out so quick. And I know the O-line's not great, but I just refuse to believe that you call 40 pass plays in a game, and every single pass has to be out in 2 seconds. I've seen and last week in his 3 interceptions, I didn't see him under pressure in those 3 interceptions. It looked like he had time to me. Like when I rewatched it, the only time he had pressure, which was, I thought it was a hands in the face on Eichenberg, but when he fumbled, obviously he was under pressure, but he should have just thrown the ball out of bounds. Holding the ball too long. Another knock on Tua there. He just doesn't get it as far as getting rid of the ball sometimes. But I get it. He's trying to make a play. I can't down him. I don't like to knock him too much for that because he's trying to make a play. But I just wonder how much that plays into the design of the offense. They're always trying to move his launch points. They're always trying to, get him in certain areas, obviously, to where he could make a downfield throw or whatever the case is. But I just wonder how much that plays into the offense. The passing offense.
It's a fair point.
I'll give you some numbers. All right. So if you look at last week, Tua had a very low, which is very high for most league, 68% clean throw platform at 219 time to throw, which is extraordinarily fast. But for him, it's extraordinarily slow. Season high. So he was under pressure 32%. At 32% pressure. He was blitzed 8 times, and he had 14 pressures, and we ran play action 27% and screens 25%. So over 50% were pass rush mitigation plays. And so he threw a 219 in his clean throw platform, and he still had 14 pressures and 32%. And so they only blitzed at eight times. So that means it's 7 guys in the coverage. And 50% of the time you were restricting guys, 25% in play actions. So this is an ultra conservative offense. And I think if you go back, the craziest one of them all, and it's hard to gauge this one. I wouldn't put too much on it because of all the screens, but we had 4.9 yards average depth of target and 4.9 yards per catch. And so
did you see the Broncos last night? It was like 2.3. Right, did you see the Bronco game last night? It was 2.3 yards per depth target. It was the lowest he said of the year. It was the lowest of any team in
was
like
that on
the
the Broncos? Year. That was like the Broncos.
The Broncos, yeah. Nick was not throwing.
O-line didn't look
and
good.
They weren't throwing it. Yeah, they weren't throwing it down the field. All of his, I think, his running backs. Yeah, they were kind of doing the same thing last night at Denver. It was working early on, but then the Chargers adjusted. But yeah, it was like
a floater. He threw a floater. He had a guy.
Oh yeah, Mims
by 3 yards by the time he released it. But it was, I don't know what that was. I don't know a lot about Bo Nix, but that arm strength, it could be real.
Yeah, he's got a pretty good. Holy cow. Good arm. I'm surprised. Yeah, he's got a pretty good arm. That just one was kind of
long and just yipped it.
Yeah, he's got a pretty good arm, but yeah, that one was bad. The what I was going to say here too was the there was a stat in last week's game. Was it last week or against the Jets where the Dolphins 25% of our pass plays are at or behind the line of scrimmage, or of our 25%. That's 1/4. So, we're not driving the ball downfield. And I think that teams, what you do is you play physical with the outside receivers, you jam them, and then you force Tua to hold the ball. Because that's when he gets into trouble. Not only coming off his first read, because Tua's mechanics, they start getting out of whack after he has to, if he can't get the ball out really quick and he has to go through his progressions. I notice his footwork, and I notice he just gets more jittery. He gets more, and that is something that I think that McDaniel, if he's going to be the coach, he needs to look at what the Rams do, because the Rams, they kept running 1 yard against the 49ers last week. And I watch a lot of Rams games because they're a fun team to watch, and they just stick with the run, man. They stick with it. They don't care. I don't care if they're 1 yard, 2 yards, 3 yards. They will stick with that run and run them 25 times, and that's McVay. That's where he's evolved. And I think McDaniel, that's got to be his next evolution. And Kyron Williams is not a big back, but it's crazy that you have to stick with it. You have to stick, but the point is you have to stick with the run. It's not always going to work. You're not always going to pop 7-8 yard runs all the time, but you have to just keep sticking with it, because that is and I thought McDaniel did a good job of that against the Bills early in the year, even though that was a terrible game. That game, the interceptions killed us, but we were running, we were sticking with the run, and I was like, okay, McDaniel against the Jags, we were kind of running it, sticking with the run. We kind of iced that game.
That's why we beat the Rams. That was the only reason we beat the Rams. It's because we would not give up on the run.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like you have to be that way, man. Especially in a game like last week, you just have to stick with that run. HN Mostert should have had 20 plus carries last week, combined. There are 25.
What good offense or just what good quarterback right now doesn't? What team do you go, oh man, they're just throwing it. They're going to throw it. Is there a quarterback right now that you can think of that has no run game and the defense?
The Bengals, Bengals don't run the ball. The Bengals don't run the ball very much. The Bengals, the Broncos, actually, last night, the Broncos have had a terrible run game this year. The Bengals, the Broncos, there's some teams out there that don't run it very well and that throw, but they kind of run it just to run it, kind of like we do. There are some teams like that, and but there's not.
When it's our team, we always look at it a little differently, but it just, I mean, really, you watch our games and the quarterbacks on the other team are supported, and I know I'm a Tua guy, but I'll tell you all of his flaws. Like I'll watch there's a lot of things I don't like about his game. Just watching even Bo Nix run around, you're like, that's such a weapon. Like, if you can run a little bit, be a little bit of an athlete, it's huge right now because it overcomes bad offensive play call, bad O-line play. Like, it's this equalizer that we don't really have. And I still support Tua, but the team has to be built a certain way, and we're not doing that. And I don't know. I like Mike. I like Tua, but honestly, at this point, if someone said, "Hey, we're going to start all over," and there's a great chance you get a good GM, but Tua and Mike, they might not even play another game, I'd say, God damn, that sucks. I really thought Tua was going to be something, and I thought Mike could have done something, but on to the next. We need to do something different. And if they stay around and succeed, I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't be surprised if somehow the roster got turned over in the right way. I could see these guys succeeding. I really can. But right now, we don't have the answers. Every single team, the Texans, the Packers, it doesn't even matter. They have an easy answer to beat us, and they just got to bully us a little bit and put a lot of guys in coverage. Like, how easy is that, you know?
And then we always end up shooting ourselves in the foot too. It's like a penalty here, always put us behind the chains. Those don't help either. And it's just like, whether it's a penalty, a holding, a false start, it's like it's just always something that leads to that puts us behind the. And so we're always playing behind the chains uphill. And when we have something going, it's just like, it's just a mistake. Rather, it's always a mistake. It's like, Tua, I think I think you can win with him. I don't know how far you'll actually go with a quarter. Like the Lions, like I look at the Lions, they have the perfect roster for Jared Goff. But I still wonder, is that team, and now they're dealing with injuries, but are they going to be able to beat Philadelphia? Are they going to be able to beat Mahomes? Are they going to be able to beat Jordan Love, who I think is a better quarterback than Goff, not talent wise, not like, I think Goff's a good quarterback. But I think that, talent wise, I think Jordan Love has more talent than Jared Goff, and like Jalen Hurts.
Goff can't create. If Goff is getting blitzed, if he's on a play there, Goff has zero ability. But when things are right, the guy can make a lot of really quick reads. He's got a good arm. Like
he has protection. He has the whole line to protect them, Yeah, he's got the coach.
You get incredible results, in my opinion. And then there's also, we've seen Tua kind of melt. We've seen the moments be too big. And in my opinion, it's also the moments are too big, but the weight of having to do what he has to do is too big for him. And it would be too big for a lot of quarterbacks because he's,
Exactly.
So I just think, I really do believe in the guy, and I don't know. Maybe he would choke. Maybe he would still choke in a big game. I really don't know. I can't say.
Right.
But I've never seen him in a game where I'm like, damn, Tua, all you had to do was throw it around a little bit. The run game was going. I've never seen a game like that I can remember. But when he was a rookie year,
Yeah, and I think that another bad thing for us, unfortunately, is we're in a division and a conference. Like if Tua was in the NFC South, or if he was, in a division, not in the conference with Mahomes and Allen and Lamar and Burrow, like that's another thing going against us. And I think that. I'm even hard on Tua sometimes, and I don't think he's a trash bad quarterback. I don't think that lowly of him, because I have seen him make some improvements, but again, I just think when you're looking at, like, when we're in a division with Josh Allen, it's hard not to get upset. It's like, that's who we have to beat, and it's like, do you really have confidence? It's not just Tua, it's just the whole operation. It's not just Tua, but he looks very small in some of these moments, as opposed to how they look with when you go up against Josh Allen, you have all the confidence Josh Allen's going to come through in that fourth quarter, and just Tua hasn't done it yet. But we'll see. We're kind of tied to him. We're kind of tied to him. He's our guy. It's just going to be how it is. So it's the way it's going to go for now.
Well, for me, the way I
Grier out, man.
Oh yeah, I don't know if he's going to go though. I'm kind of getting some weird vibes. I'm getting some weird vibes, man. I'm getting some weird vibes that he might be back. I would say if we lose all three, it would be very tough narrative sell. But You have to remember, yeah, we might, but he should be out no matter what. I mean, that would be the clear thing, but they can craft. They can craft some pretty easy narratives, like 1 or 2 wins.
Yeah. To
bring him back, and that would be terrible. It really would be. I would kind of lose hope in Grier and Ross at that stage. But it's going to be what it's going to be. He's clearly made so many huge mistakes, and he's been here for so long. I don't know how anybody defends him. I guess everyone's got a different eval, but he's got so many flaws. Somebody put up this flow chart, and it was just so damning. I don't get how you can justify what he's done with the oldest team in the league. We constantly crap out. He mocks fans about the offensive line. Can't put it there. Who decided to keep Eichenberg in all these years? Do you think that was the coaches? The first year we were here, the O-line coach was fighting with Smith over Jones, over Eichenberg, and then mysteriously the O-line coach is gone. And
I don't think they have. Who do they have? I mean, they just drafted Eichenberg. This is his 3rd year, right, or 4th year? Is this his 4th year? Yeah. Did he start the whole time? I don't remember him. Was he starting?
Yeah. He was a tackle, and he's done it all.
I didn't know that he was a starter.
It's a round peg in the square hole, man. They've been trying to jam that thing. And I don't know. For me, though, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead, man.
No, I just think that the whole design around Tua was a design that was meant to try to get fast results, quick results, maybe to get people excited so they can raise the ticket prices. But it's so imbalanced, and I didn't want to draft Tua. I was pissed, excuse my French, when they started him over Fitzpatrick in 2020. I'm like, this is ridiculous. And then he comes out, he's like, I didn't know the playbook and I wasn't healthy. But I got tired, and I went back and started studying the film. When I started doing this thing, I started doing in 2021, and I said, wait, man, this guy didn't know the playbook. How did he get in there? You know what I'm saying? I was like, when I saw his release, I'm like, wow, you can do a lot with this release. And I said, there is some qualities to this guy. I think that, I didn't like the health aspect. But if you've got a quarterback that's got health issues, a history, why don't you set up a good offensive line? Why aren't you setting up a tight end, which is a security blanket? Why aren't you why do you have 2 receivers? The guy's an anticipatory thrower, and he can throw to spots. Why aren't you getting a big guy that can box guys out in the red zone? Why do you have 2 small receivers? Even if you took Tua out of the equation, this offensive line can't block past 2.2 seconds. They did 2.19 at 68 seconds and gave up 32% pressure. So people are saying, well, they designed this because he can't do nothing else. Okay, then why are they giving pressure up? Why is the pressure so high after such a quick time? Why can't we run block? This offensive line is a joke.
We actually were doing a better job of run blocking when Austin Jackson was in. I mean, they were, again, last year we had a top 4 offense, 4 or 5 run offense, and I know they weren't. They still weren't good. No, but the point is that it worked. They got results with it because of their inside zone, or however they blocked it up. But
I'll disagree. I'll tell you this: almost all the rush yards came on first down. And defense.
No, I know. And a lot of were big plays. Remember the H-hand we had against the Broncos? We had 300 yards rushing, and then a couple of and Mostert broke some big plays, but it wasn't a good we need 4 yards, we're going to get 4 yards.
It wasn't that. So I did this breakdown, and there's some people out there, man. Sometimes I get frustrated by them. So I did you look at all the yards that we got all in the first third of the season, and I tracked the edge players. They played inside, and they were getting cracked, and it was open to all that stuff. And then after the Broncos game, the edge players kept playing wider and wider and wider, and the outside zone runs kept getting shut down. And then the running game just kind of nosedived. And that's all they do now. All they do now is stop the edges, stop the pocket pass. And so the run game was a bit of a fantasy. It was an illusion. And so many people, I'm sorry, Liam. I'm sorry, Austin Jackson. Bushbury, we trust. Like, I don't know. I say things and they're like totally opposite of most people. And then a couple of weeks later, everybody's saying what I'm saying. I say it for a reason. Like, you know, if you just go look, we've got 200, 250, 300 yards and like another 200-yard game in 3 games. And then we never had a 200-yard game or like maybe 150-yard game after that.
We didn't have a 100-yard game for I don't even know how long.
Yeah.
After Wynn went out, we never had another 100-yard game after Wynn.
And it's not Wynn. People will tell you, oh, it's Wynn. He's so good. I don't know. It's matchups. Who did we match up against? When did we
Wynn
match
was actually a first-round pick, too. He was, I mean, when he's healthy, he's
a bad one.
Healthy. He's not, I wouldn't say he's an elite, you know, tackle guard. I think he was tackle with the Patriots, but he was definitely I mean, he was a first-round pick. He's a big guy, you know. He had some value, but he just can't stay healthy, you know, which is another story. Agree.
The thing is, he's 6'2", 305-pound tackle. You can't do that. You have to be so exceptional.
Yeah,
like Zach Tom is doing it. Zach Tom is doing it, but he's a freak. He's like 310, but his measurables were the best of like 30, 40 years. That's like freak show. And the thing is, he can't handle power. You know, and people don't like, I don't know. It's just me. I'm not saying I'm right, but people don't evaluate like skill sets. So, you know, yeah, you can run the outside zone and they can do this or whatever, but they can't drive block. And if you can't drive block, then defenses, if they watch you, they go, oh, well, all they can do is run outside. They can't drive block, so I don't even have to worry about the cutback because they don't even have tight ends that can go up and down the line to block. Shut down the edges, play your pass, and then you force them to run inside. Why do you see all you see is 2 D tackles and 2 ends spread out wide outside? Like I did a film on it. Like one of the first plays, the DN was on the outside of the tight end. They had 2 D tackles, and then the other end was on the outside of the tackle, like in between the tight end who was playing offline. And then you had 2 linebackers. It's like the whole inside AB gap is open. And like, run here, we dare you. And you can't, and you don't. And so they cover everything, and it goes nowhere. It's like
that's just the Niners do too. They run a wide front, like they're going to leave those gaps open this weekend. You'll see Bosa's going to play far out on the outside. I'm interested to see how many balls he takes.
If he plays.
Oh, he's not playing?
He's got a hip thing. They said he's questionable. They said, you know.
Oh, he
didn't practice all week, though. He didn't practice all week.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know. That's what they're saying. So I want to go over some quick things about this game before we move on. So Trent Williams is out. They got Jalen Moore, not rookie. They got him a couple of years ago. He's like 30 years in. He's playing lights out. They know how to draft. Pooney, they got him this year. This guy's playing lights out. Saubert, old tight ends there. He sucks, but he plays, so that may help us out.
Yeah, we got Eric Saubert. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they got Brendel. They got Brendel, but we got no Waddle. And without Waddle, Hill is going to be totally targeted. There's not going to be the same kind of leverage. It's kind of was some reason why I got upset at OBJ leaving and like the way we handled that. It's like that's a roster spot. It's money. Who do we got? We got Washington. Okay. Is he your boundary guy? Craycraft, is he your boundary guy? It's like you can't throw any of these things away. Now we're thin. I mean, Du Bois is thankfully okay, but he's out. Waddle's out. And if you look at the Patriots, San Fran, their defense, they're 3rd in yards allowed over the last 3 weeks. Rush yards, 29th worst, so we should be able to try to run at them if we can. But they're number 1 in pass defense. They're number 6 in points at 20 points per game. Now their offense, 25th over the last 3 games.
They're getting ran on.
Oh, a lot of it has to do with the Bills and the blizzard, though, and then the monsoon game they had last week. I'm sure. So yeah,
still their whole their season is still one of the top.
A-Stan should have a big game, and I think Mostert will probably be more involved this week. I got to imagine maybe a little revenge game factor. I don't know. I got to imagine. But I'm sure the running backs will be heavily involved. Jonnu, they'll probably the Niners are good against tight ends, kind of like Houston is. I think they're number one against tight ends or something like that. Like Houston was a top 3 or 4 team last week. That's why Jonnu was.
San Fran's number 1 on the season, 194 yards per game in pass. So it's not a 3-game aberration. And so, we're going to have to run the football to beat these guys at least some level. You're not going to be able to throw because you're not going to have Waddle. This is going to be a low scoring kind of game. And so it'll be very interesting. Their offense isn't that good, but their thing is the pass. They can't run the football. All the running backs are injured. They can pass a little bit. They average 18 points a game. So it's going to be I think it's
they have no all their running backs are injured. They're on like their 5th string running back.
Yeah.
Kittle, though, he's going to be a problem.
Kittle and we always get killed by tight ends.
I'm afraid of Kittle.
I'm
afraid of Kittle on this.
Yeah, Debo's having a down year, but Jawan Jennings is another guy who to look out for. He's playing well.
If we can't run on the 49ers, if we have no semblance of a run game, like we have zero shot. I wonder if you guys might know a little more about the Liam Eichenberg possibly. I started watching your video earlier, Curtis, and about Liam Eichenberg possibly getting benched. And if they go with Wynn, who knows what shape he's in? He's at least a bigger dude. If they go with Jones on the right and they have, Paul in there, I guess Lamb would play right tackle. But sadly, that lineup is their most powerful lineup. Like that lineup that I just said, that's their most powerful lineup with Eichenberg off. So it's bad. It's bad. But if we can't run the ball, I'm really afraid of Kittle, man. I mean, I like Brooks. I'm just afraid of Kittle because what did Bowers do to us? It's like we either gave it to him or he had no answer for Bowers.
And this is a much better offense.
Against Cardinals, their tight end. He was doing what he wanted to do. So I don't know. This game doesn't. This is not a game where I go, I could see Miami running their offense, the things they like to do. They're gonna. Hell no, man. San Francisco knows exactly what to do. They've already done it. The whole league has done it. It's gut check time. I just hope we run the ball. I said that last week and the week before and the week before and the week before. I just hope we can run the ball. But
But they have in the middle. They have the guy Hargrave, right? Javon Hargrave, and they have Kinlaw, and they have Bosa. They have. I mean,
Warner. They got Warner, man. Warner's a beast, dude. Warner's a beast.
And the other guys back. Greenlaw. He came back last time.
He's gonna bring it.
Then the one guy, Tavondre Campbell, he didn't show up. Remember, he didn't go on the field last week, so they cut him. That's a little.
Malik is a good player. I like Malik, but he just doesn't have. He's not a boundary receiver.
Yeah, he's not going to win one-on-one and all.
Yeah, he's not going to. Because the thing is, you have to understand is the main potency, is Hill and Waddle create a leverage that forces defenses to play that double high, to cover 2, to 2 high safety, sometimes 3. But right now with Hill, you just need 1. You could play single high safety because you don't have the threat of the deep. There's no one else who's going to burn you like that. So you opens up a lot of stuff without Hill and Waddle on the field for prolonged periods of time. I like Washington a lot. This kid's showing me a ton. I think he's a real player. I think Grier hits on some players. It's just not enough. Sure. And he flops on a bunch of them.
Not in the right spots right now for this team. He doesn't hit on, except for Paul looks good, but
Well, the problem is they have to be depth, so they're not able to use these guys. How like the Chiefs, you see how they use certain guys like Xavier Worthy. Like they drafted him in the first round, but they're not using him to be their number 1 receiver, even though he was kind of thrust into a bigger role with all their injuries. They still don't use him as their. I mean, they use him kind of as a gadget weapon, and a deep ball kind of guy. You're supposed to bring these guys up. I mean, unless they're a top 5-10 pick, playing what different position. A lot like receivers and running backs and stuff. They're supposed to be progressively worked into the offense or the defense, or they're supposed. You don't just throw them into the wolves, or you can't ask them to play. You can't ask them to fill a void on a team that they're not really equipped to fill.
We do all the time.
Because we don't have.
Kid, don't worry about it. It don't matter.
That's the biggest problem with this team, in my opinion, is they just the draft with the lack of draft picks the last 3 years, and then the years where we had a lot of draft picks. Just not. I don't think they did a best job. It's always like they don't get the best player available. They always got to fill a need, because they're trying to win now, or they need this badly, or that's a whole no. You got to start drafting the best player available. Start filling your roster up with talent, no matter where it's at. You just got to accumulate talent.
What's
exactly.
Grier's philosophy? Like, what does Grier say? This is the kind of team I want to build. All I can think of is fast. I can't think of anything that I'm like. Even the defensive ends that he likes to draft, like he likes his corners, but I just don't know what his philosophy is. Like, what kind of a player is he looking for? I don't get it.
That's what I'm saying. No, he wants pass rushers, corners, and tackles. Other than that, I don't think he really I don't think he's a good evaluator of talent. It's like a premium position for Grier. He wants to get that. He doesn't. I don't know. I just feel like that's what that's his specialty is pass rushers or edge rushers, cornerbacks, and tackles.
Imagine
he doesn't.
Penei Sewell. Imagine we're going to play the 49ers with Penei Sewell tomorrow.
A year after you drafted Tua, you had a choice with the number 6 pick, sixth pick, I believe.
Yeah.
And we had Penei Sewell or Jalen Waddle. And I know at the time, I know a lot of people were saying, "Oh, we need weapons. We need weapons to throw to," because we had nobody. And I trust me, I get it. But I'm sorry, with the top 6 pick, if you weren't getting Jamar Chase in that draft, I don't think you could take a receiver at number 6. You got to build that line. Jalen Waddle.
Isn't he Samoan like Tua?
Or even Smith. Even Smith. Look at all the guys he passed on.
Well, well, he went 12th. Yeah, but Smith and Waddle, same type of player. But again, I think different like the Eagles
they have first round draft pick on him.
Right, they have stockpile of pick. The Eagles are drafting 3 times in the second, third round. It seems every year. It's like they got 2, 3 picks in the third round.
There's so many receivers in the third round, second and third round.
And I think the Dolphins, they wanted to give to a weapon, which I get. And I remember, if you remember at the time, we had Devontae Parker who couldn't stay healthy. And it was just like, I get it, but Penei Sewell he's the kind of guy that anchors your line for the next 15 years. You don't have to worry about that position anymore.
Not sexy.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, think about it, though. Waddle was injured in college. He had limited reps. He was a short-time player when injuries kind of kept him out. Definitely like a flash player, but Sewell is prototypical. He was like as easy as it comes. But that's the thing is, look, hey, I give Grier credit because he has his belief and he's stuck by it. He was just totally wrong. The NFL is based on a trend.
What would you say his belief is?
Speed.
Speed
and skills. And he doesn't believe, like you'll even hear people say, well, it's just really chemistry. Like you just need chemistry. Yeah, chemistry plays a part. It's like icing on a cake. The cake is talent. Like if I just said, you know what, I'm going to get a quarterback in here and he's going to have chemistry with his offense. You'd be like, what are you, a retard? Oh, no. These receivers, they're not really that good, but they got good chemistry. They're going to have great chemistry. You'd be like, what are you, stupid? Hey, you know what? Those cornerbacks, they're slow. They're not really good, but they got great chemistry. You'd be like,
good instincts.
Yeah, you moron? If people actually think that the offensive line is just these big dummies. Like, you can put any big dummy in there, and as long as they work well together, it's like a joke.
That's why I don't think that this team's going to be able to just fix their O-line in an offseason or two. I think it's going to take – if you actually look around the league, look at the Steelers, look at the there's a lot of teams. I think it was the Packers, the Broncos. They start 2 rookies like if they start Zach Frazier and Olu Fashanu, there's a lot of teams that start 2 rookies because they want to develop that continuity at a young, you know what I'm saying, off the bat.
Yeah.
And even it might be a little bit of a weakness the first year, you know, until they get in rhythm. You still have to stick with it. You know what I'm saying? Because you're building an O-line, whether it's the right side, the left side. Like there's a lot of teams that the Seahawks did it with Cross and Lucas when they drafted those 2 guys in the first and second round. There's a lot
The
of
Bucs
teams
look
that
great right now. The Bucs offensive line looks like
Oh,
Baker's
yeah, they got
got
great.
easy time behind that offensive line right now, man. They are maulers. I'm just so
And the Bears
jealous of the
started a
offensive
guy
line.
too, guy from Yale, I think. I mean, even though they're a little bit of a mess, but you know, the thing is, you build that continuity, and then you kind of see, okay, is this guy, you know, where is there a weakness here, or you know what I mean? But we just don't. I mean, I don't know. It's just like Eichenberg, like you said, Eichenberg we could have had Creed Humphrey at 40.
And Eichenberg's still on the team, and it's week whatever, and we're talking about he might get benched. Like
that's like totally insane. Do you know how many people that I had to argue with last year? I had to argue with them. Yeah. I'm sorry. You don't know what you're talking about. You've lost all your credibility because Jackson and Eichenberg are awesome. Jackson's been injured every season except for one, and he's not that good. I don't know what people are thinking. And Eichenberg is clearly no good. You need to look, chemistry matters on the O-line, but you still need talent. I mean, not everybody's got to be a superstar, but the way you construct it, you know, you can have like 2 maybe not so great guards, but then you got to have a really awesome center that's a pass blocker guy to pull them together and 2 good tackles.
Have somebody next to them, you know? Yeah.
Right. You got to craft it a certain way.
Design.
Yeah, it's just total helter-skelter. Like Jones, he's a right guard for an inside zone run-ish heavy system. He's not a left guard in an outside zone pass heavy. Why is he here? Yeah. How do you even have him here? Like it's just totally insane. It's like
he was a good prospect at Notre Dame. I will say he was a good prospect, but I don't know what happened. He just did not translate. I remember because I wanted him. I wanted Liam Eichenberg. I wanted him when he was in Notre Dame. I was like really high on Eichenberg. I thought he was going to be a hit. I wanted us to draft him. When we drafted him, I was like, yes. And I'm surprised how bad he turned out to be.
Did he not face power in college, you know, and get exposed?
I think the biggest problem. I think the biggest problem for Liam Eichenberg, if you look at Austin Jackson and Liam Eichenberg, they're super conscientious. They're really good people. You can see it matters to them. They're trying. They're giving everything they got. Yeah. But the problem is you have to study psychology. When you have a conscientious person and you put them in a position where they're not able to handle it, then they get tight and then they start building bad traits. Jackson should not have been drafted 19th, and Eichenberg shouldn't have been drafted the 2nd and 3rd pick. Jackson should have been taken in the 4th round. You know, and he would have been a guy who sat in the back and, you know, he would have tried to develop him. He would have taken his time. There would have been no pressure. And then you could have slowly built this guy up to be not even a starter maybe right away, but in time. And then Eichenberg, he's just a guy that he was taking. These guys are conscientious. You put him in totally weak. Yeah. He's got no lower body. It's got no lower body. Yeah. It all starts from that.
Yeah, it looks like he's mentally weak too. He just doesn't seem to have that. You know, he sounds like a good guy from when I hear Omar and all them. They say he's a good guy, but he's just weak, man. Some guys kind of like the John Martin guy.
You got to think about this. All right, so you're a guy, you're a kid. You get drafted to the NFL. This is your dream. Now you've been drafted and you don't know you're overdrafted, but you're drafted and it's such a high status. The pressure's on. You're thrust in. You're with these men in this violent gladiatorial game and you're screwing it up. And, you know, you have all your hopium pimps saying you're not, but everyone's going back and watching the film and all these football players are like, and they're saying stuff. Curtis, why are you so hard? They're saying hard stuff, whether it's behind his back in the corner. They're saying, dude, you can't block. Why is this guy in here again? And he's trying to, I mean, it's pressure, it's weight. It's almost cruel to force a guy in there like that and have all these people suffer through it and him to keep showing up again. Why is he getting the gig? Like, why? I mean, everybody knew that Robert Jones should have been in there before him. Like, why is he getting the gig? And then you're talking about competition, you're talking about fair, and like, it's bogus and it's not fair to him because it's clear on film. Even a dummy like me can see it, only the Hopium pimps can't. But everybody that's on the team, they're watching the film, they're seeing it. What do you think they're saying? Like, why is this guy in here? You tell him you're supposed to win, and he just
has who are they going to put? Like who? I know Eichenberg isn't good, but I mean, he had a couple of good games last year where he held up. It looked like he might have been improving a little bit, but I mean, a lot of teams they don't just give up on their second round pick like that unless they do something like off the field or they're
most
they
teams
do
don't
something.
screw up that pick that bad and then double up ahead in the third round. Dude, we had Hunter in the third round and we had Eichenberg in the second and third round.
We give up on our picks. We give up on our picks. We've given up on our picks. I think we've given up on our picks, but not on the O-line for some reason. It's like a stubborn, we need to prove a point about this O-line type pick. But
if you don't think, if you don't think that Chris Grier in the media department is hearing the pressure of Grier can't draft and his O-line suck and he's not out to prove people wrong, why do you think he would come out in front of the media and talk to fans? There's fans out there who think about the depth. He's hearing stuff and he's trying to tell everybody, I'm smarter than you.
Yeah, well, it's like, well, what do you expect them to say too? Like, oh yeah, well, we know that we don't prioritize the O-line here. They're not going to come out and say that. No,
don't say nothing. Because you look like a bigger jackass to say the fans are more concerned about the offensive line depth than we are.
Yeah. Well, he's just like a.
Then you get it wrong, and then you come back next year and double down on the rhetoric. You don't do anything to help the offensive line. Well, you do. You had Paul, but he's not going to help you this year so much. And then you come out and say, "This, I feel more confident about this offensive line than I ever have." Like, are you doing crack?
I got
What was it? The first 7 or 8 games where the O-line stayed healthy. I mean, I thought that was their best. I thought they were at least respectable for a while. And then when Austin Jackson went out, it just kind of, snowballed. But I mean, and then Armstead started getting injured. But Armstead was healthy for the first few, 2 months of the year, and Austin Jackson was healthy. And I didn't think the O-line was as bad as some people were making it out. Now, they weren't a quality O-line, but I just thought they were at least, respectable. They weren't giving up a bunch of sacks. We were getting pushed in the run game. We had big numbers when Tua was out. We were running the ball. We just didn't have a quarterback, but, when he was out. But, I mean, it was like the O-line to me wasn't like they weren't making these. But they also were developing that continuity. That's always been a problem with our O-line is they're always – mishmashing these guys together, whether it's injury or something that, Armstead's out.
But who did we play? We played Seattle that had a whole defense that was gutted. There was like, they were taking guys out of the stands on the defensive front.
The Titans have a great D-line. The Titans are like the number 1 defense in the NFL.
Oh, yeah, and they lit us up. And they dominated, just Sweat alone dominated the whole front. They had like 3 guys hanging off Sweat, and he's walking around. He was dominating, just him. Yeah. Could you imagine if Simmons was there too?
Yeah. I got a theory, guys. Can I share a theory with you?
You're here, man.
Yeah, this is kind of a holistic, macro Miami Dolphin view here, but there's a lot of teams that think of the Steelers. Like Mike Tomlin, you don't know if there's a crazy guy on his team. You might hear rumblings until they ship him off or until they retire. And you realize, holy cow, that guy was insane. Tomlin just was able to take care of this insane player. This guy, we don't have those guys. We look for guys. I don't want to say beta because there's not one beta in the NFL. Like I would never say that to any NFL player's face. But we don't look for guys that might be a character issue. We don't look for guys that, and I hate to say it, but those guys, there's a lot of really good players we overlook because we want a culture which is great. Like, I can't knock all these things. I
Well,
thought it would work.
like,
I thought this would work, but there's guys that we probably we're not interested in because of culture, because of history, because of whatever. And what we have are not dogs. We don't have killers. We don't have guys that are, yeah, they're probably doing some crazy stuff on their free time, but when they go out there, they're insane. They're Lawrence Taylor. They're snorting coke and they're going out and just killing. We don't have that. We don't look for that. We look for Walter Payton, Man of the Year, at every position. And, hat tip, right? Morally, hat tip to the Miami Dolphins. But on the field, we have no murderers. We have nobody who's just going to go out there. So that's Grier's build. That's, if you're like, what's Grier's philosophy? Walter Payton, Man of the Mirror, who are fast, who can, really, really
I think that goes more to our organizational culture, because I think that you can put, I think that the organization, like the Steelers, right, they miss on draft picks, they miss on guys, and they've had trouble getting there. I mean, they had Big Ben Roethlisberger, but I mean, they haven't had the best history with quarterbacks. Yeah, there's these organizations, but look at the Packers. I just think that you you could take a guy like Deshaun Elliott, who was with the Dolphins last year, or even Landon Roberts that was with the Dolphins, and those weren't bad players for us, but you put them on the Steelers, and they just look totally different. You know what I'm saying?
Huge plays in the playoffs type players. Yeah.
Yeah. Then they draft a guy. They drafted the guy from North Carolina State, Peyton Wilson. They got a guy Herbig from Boston College, who I really like, Herbig. And I think they drafted him, and nobody, these are guys that those are just hard-nosed football player guys, like guys who love the game, guys who, guys who will set the culture, who will, because you can't have a good culture if you don't have, if you
alphas,
don't, if you're not,
they're alphas,
right?
draft
If you're
alphas.
not, right, but you also have to believe in something as like the Dolphins, what are the Dolphins known for? Being kind of soft, and they're known for they're not mentally tough team. They're known for always choking. That is what gives you that label of being soft. The Dolphins are like, when you look at the Steelers, yeah, or you look at the Packers, or you look at those teams might not win the Super Bowl every year. They might not be as good. The Patriots,
like
Ravens, great example. But you look at those teams, and it's always in. You can almost check mark that they're going to be in it at the end of the year. Book it, guaranteed. I can tell you that 3 or 4 teams that are going to be in it at the end of the year. And it's like with the Dolphins, you don't know. The only thing you can know about the Dolphins is we might be 500. We might sneak into the playoffs. Might. Maybe not. Like, before I went into this year, I got laughed at. I said the Dolphins would be 7-10 this year, and the reason I said that they would be 7-10, that I had a feeling that we would be 7-10, because they were gonna. And I remember this comment clearly, because somebody said the Dolphins are easily going to go 7-0 this year. This was before the season. They saw the schedule and they're like, Dolphins are going to easily be 7-0. And I said, because the injuries and because just the way that last year ended, you don't just bounce back from that. The way that last year went, something just told me that this team was not going to live up to its expectations this year. And the Bills, I don't know why everyone was counting the Bills out. It's like, come on, I already know the Bills were going to be. I didn't think they would be as good as they are, but like the record would be as good. But I knew the Bills are going to be probably fighting for the division. Obviously
every year.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, they had that guy. They have one of those guys. That's just really what it is. So.
Jason, I remember thinking that you were too down on the Dolphins and you were too down on Tua, and I just always try to keep an open mind, because in my mind I always tell myself, bro, you're too high on these players. You're too high on the guys you really think are going to be great. I thought Mike would be great. I thought Tua would be great, and in some ways Tua has been great for me. But I keep an open mind. And Jason was on my list of guys that he's not very confident. Barry Jackson, Curtis. There's some guys I'm like, okay, and you guys were right, man. You guys were right. And I wish I had a crystal ball. I could have seen this, because my heart got broken again every goddamn year. and I'm at the point where if I don't see major changes, and I don't even mean free agency, I don't mean roster moves, I mean major philosophical changes to the team. I want to believe this, that there's only so much involved I can get in. There's only so much I can put in and go, this is our year.
Yeah. You sound like me last year, because I've been down to the Dolphins for years. I had season tickets from 1997 until 2016, bro. Wow. I had season tickets for 20 years, and I was after they started losing all that, and I was just like, you know what, whatever, and I ended up moving out of Miami, but I was just never excited about the Dolphins. I love my team. I watch them every Sunday, everything. I wasn't excited about it. Next year, after after Tua went out, we made the playoffs and we put up a good fight against the Bills. I fell into the trap, and then we got Jalen Ramsey, and I'm like, all right. I fell into the trap last year, and then the way that we collapsed at the end, it really said to me, no. I was not confident at all coming in this year. You're always hopeful. That's, but I was not confident. And I think the fan base is looking for that. I think the fan base is looking for something to give us like that hope, and not just a hope for 1 year run, but a hope for like you want to know going into the year that your team's going to be there at the end. You want to know that, all right, we're going to win the division, or we're going to be we're going to be the favorite. I just think there's too many variables with the Dolphins. It's Tua's injury. It's Mike McDaniel. It's our O-line. It's our defense is older now. There's just so many variables with the Dolphins. There's not one constant. You know what I'm saying? There's not one constant within the organization that we could hang our hat on, like, to give us that confidence as fans that, wow, we're going to be a good team. With the Bills, it's Josh Allen. With the Chiefs, it's Mahomes and Andy Reid. With the Eagles, it's Howie Roseman, the GM. With the Packers, it's like they're always. It's just like we just don't have a constant.
We're an experiment. We're always an experiment. We're always like, oh, I hope this works out. I hope this is the right guy. I know he's not the right guy this year, but I hope next year with A, B, and Z around him, Yeah. And I'm tired of hoping.
For me, the thing is, I think, and this is what I've been trying to do for my time doing this thing, is that they sell hopium. And they don't really, I don't know if they're really trying to get to the Super Bowl. I think they're trying to put a good product out, an exciting product. And I think that the fans, they're really good fans, but they just buy into the hopium so quick. And so, like, my goal has always been to try to, not to give accurate information, to try to ground people and say, hey, you know what? I'd rather be wrong and us go to the Super Bowl than constantly feed people this hopium crow garbage, because the letdown is the worst. It's the letdown. That was the thing for me for all those years. Like, I didn't study football like I do now. I mean, I studied it, but not like it. And I would, it's all the time. And the last one was the Ravens playoff game that we lost with Pennington. And I had a friend who was a Ravens fan, and I was all in, man, on the hopium. And I said, that's it. That's it.
The last time that I was so excited was when we had Ricky. I was really excited, but when we had Dan Marino, bro, there was never a doubt in my mind that the Dolphins would be in it at the end of the year. Never. Even though we didn't win the Super Bowl, I knew that the Dolphins were going to be in it at the end of the year. Like, no matter what. Unless he got injured. But, like, bro, when we have Marino, like, I never worried about any game, everything. Even though we didn't win a Super Bowl, it was like, bro, I just knew that the Dolphins could win any game against anybody because we had, you know what I'm saying? Because we had Dan Marino. That's it. Honestly. Now everybody's so analytical and they want to dissect every little thing of the game, bro. I want to be a fan of the game. And Josh Allen gives the Bills hope every year. Whether they win or choke in the playoffs, who knows? They are going to be there every year. You know what I'm saying? Mahomes, be there every year, bro. Brady, every year. And he did win more than he seemed like every year. But it's like, bro, I don't feel it's. I just it's nothing against Tua, bro. It's nothing against the Dolphins. We don't have that guy, bro. We don't have nobody to compare to Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. We just don't have it, and that's all right. That's not his fault. Nobody. I don't hate the guy. Nobody hates the guy. We all want him to win, bro, and we do need to build a better team with him. But there's just a different feeling where we don't know. We can't say for certainty that we're going to be in it next year because, even the Jets with Aaron Rodgers this year, like, it's like you just don't. Those kind of organizations, they don't. They're not that guy. Aaron Rodgers used to be that guy. He's not that guy. And then he goes to the sorry ass Jets organization, and he's like, that's what happens.
I've had more fun watching like Thursday night games. I had more fun watching the Broncos and the Chargers last night. Just being a football fan, not worrying about the outcome. I don't give a shit who won that game. I don't think it's going to change our path in any way. So I get to watch the games as a fan, and kind of you always evaluate your team against what you're looking at. But really, I had a few fun games this year when we won, but I've had most fun watching some other games where I just like admired their offensive line or admired their quarterback play or their play calling, or how the offense wasn't doing well in the first half, so the defense shut it down, and then the offense took over in the second. Complementary football, just all of the things I don't get to see with Miami. I've had more fun watching other games this year, and that's kind of sad,
But no, I don't think it's sad. I think to me, that's what I've done. I first played football, and then I became a Dolphins fan, and I went back to my love of the game. And that's why even now, like if whatever's happened, I'm still like evaluating my team. I'm trying to see what the players are. I'm still trying to learn the game, because I don't want to get caught unawares. And so I just find my joy in the game. And, obviously the greatest fulfillment would be enjoying the game of football. My Dolphins going to the Super Bowl, but I can't control that. I can control that the game of football is great. There's always going to be good football every single week. And it, sucks when my team loses, but to love the game of football and branch out, you understand your own team better and you can have fun every week, And so that's how I stay sane, because this is doing this like this podcast stuff and having to cover every week. And like for me, seeing where we're at for all these years, it would have been torture, So I just really try to take myself out of it going. I think it's the way you can have fun.
Appreciate like the game, like not just watching the Dolphins, because I think I could tell by a lot of fans too. They watch the Dolphins play and they don't like, because I could tell you a lot of things that go on here do go on with other teams too. Not the best teams, but I mean, a lot of things that go on here, like, it does happen with other teams. You know what I'm saying? Like stupid play calls or like that happens. I watch that all the time. The clock mismanagement. Matt LaFleur for the Packers. He hasn't won a challenge all year.
Too. Yeah,
the Bears. But Matt LaFleur with the Packers, like they're a good team. He's a good coach. He hasn't won a challenge all year. So I think like certain things like that get overblown with the Dolphins, but that's because we don't win enough to earn that. Like we don't get the benefit of the doubt because we haven't proven anything to anybody. So nobody's going to respect the Dolphins because we have names on our team. You gotta earn respect, bro. You know what I'm saying? From the media, from the fans, other teams, they're always going to insult the Dolphins, or you're always going to hear bad things about the Dolphins until they do it, bro. That's just what it's the way it is.
I think
bro.
a lot of people.
I think
fantasy sports and they bet too much.
Sorry, Cody, go.
No, sorry. I think a lot of people play fantasy sports. I played it before. I don't play it anymore. They play fantasy sports, or they make a lot of bets, and they're watching the game. Tunnel vision here. But I make 1 or 2 bets a year, and I'll be honest, it's on Tua to win MVP. So I can spend. You spend $90, you win $2,500. I'll make that bet. Probably not next year, but I've been making that bet. But I don't know if a lot of people love the game or watch the game. Just the probably the coolest game I watched was that Steelers Browns game on a Thursday night in the snow, and there was not a lot of points. I just thought, man, that's football. That's what I like to watch. So. I love the Dolphins, but I love football.
Fantasy, I was going to tell you, fantasy football is actually what got me into watching so many other teams. Because, like I said, I used to go to the games all the time. Like my Sundays I'd get to the stadium at 9 a.m. and I wouldn't leave. If it was a 1 o'clock game, I wouldn't leave until 6. Till they made you leave. The cops would come around and they make everybody leave the park. That's when I would leave, bro. So it was like my Sundays. I didn't really watch a lot of other teams. I'd watch the games, but I wouldn't focus or pay attention. I wouldn't care, who won. now I care who won. I want my players to do well. I'm so laser focused on the whole league now, and I pay attention a lot more. So, but yeah,
You're trapped to watching so many games. I've been there,
dude,
dude.
all the games, bro. I enjoy football. I enjoy it. It's
I
like
love the
now
game.
Reggie
Most beautiful
Bush
game
scored a
ever, man.
touchdown
It's
for us.
so great.
We
So
went
great.
down the field and Reggie Bush didn't score a touchdown, and I was pissed. And I was playing
Yeah,
fantasy, and I'm like,
yeah.
dude, you just got mad that the Dolphins scored a touchdown because it wasn't the guy you wanted. And that was like this eye-opening thing. Like, dude, maybe you're not doing the right thing here. But
You
other
want to hear
people can
something
handle
funny,
it.
bro?
I couldn't handle it.
You want to hear something funny, bro? I'm in the playoffs in my main league, and whoever wins this week goes to the the championship next week. And the guy I'm playing has Tua. It's actually hilarious. The guy I'm playing has Tua.
You're gonna beat him.
We had Herbert last night, who ended up putting up like 27 points. But I'm glad he. But yeah, he has Tua. He has a good team though, Connor and all that. So, but I'm like, dang, I don't know, who do I want? I have
you're rooting for
Achane,
the
so
49ers defense, man.
no, I got Achane though, so I'm hoping Achane puts up big.
Yeah.
I just want to answer some of these questions quick. Not having capable backup for Tua. Yeah, I mean, that's just another sign of something's going on. How do you not know by this time Skylar's not the guy? And you missed on Purdy, and I get it, but whatever. But it goes back to Grier not setting things up, McDaniel not evaluating. But if you're going to develop a pigeonholed system, then how do you not have a backup quarterback when you know your quarterback's got issues? I totally agree on that. Tua was a fantasy, good times the last 7 games.
Tua has had a good fantasy season for the last 5 or 6 games. He had a lot of points. I think that's why the guy picked him up and played him
without rushing too.
I did 2 times. I did fantasy football. The first time I did it, my whole team was Dolphins. Took the Dolphin defense, every players. I lost. I was last. Then the second time I tried to play it, but I couldn't do it. It was such a weird experience. It's fun, but I just couldn't do it. Lions are great. Dan Campbell's great. I don't know if they're going to win it all, but they built a very good team. And Dan Campbell, aside from those, sometimes he gets crazy with those 4th downs.
I'm rooting for the Lions, bro. I'd like to see the Lions do it. It's hard not to root for them. The way they play.
Am I horrible to want to see Lions Bills? Am I like a horrible Dolphins fan? Because I think I grew up with the Bills being shitty, the Lions going 0-16, like John Kitna was their best quarterback. Like I would love to see that just for anybody
but Kansas City. Anybody but
Kansas City. So maybe that's where I'm going with it.
Definitely.
I like. They actually embarrassed the Lions last year. Like they beat them. They beat their crap out of them last year. The Ravens did. I would like to see the Ravens and the Lions, if not the Bills or somebody like that. Because even though I don't like the Ravens,
Detroit with all those injuries on their defense, so I don't know how they can do it.
The Eagles are going to be a good one. Eagles Lions. That's going to be Eagles Packers. I think Packers are coming on. Vikings. We'll see. I don't think the Vikings are going to. We'll see though.
We're so far behind those teams. If
so
foundationally
far.
wise.
Dude, we're light years.
Look at the Vikings coach they have there, Kevin O'Connell. That's another guy that from the McDaniel, the Shanahan tree, and look what he's done with Minnesota. I think he's done a pretty good job, bro, with Kirk Cousins and
Darnold.
And Darnold now, and then I think he's done a good job building that O-line. He's done a really good job.
Really good. And I was saying, I am him. Burrow and Herbert were strapped with terrible offensive lines for years, and they got the hell beat out of them. Finally, the Chargers decided to build their offensive line up. Some people were saying that they got a bad offensive line. They struggle a little bit at protection. Corey Linsley getting injured and going out really hurt that unit. But they can run the football. They've done a lot to protect the kid.
Rookie's Joe Alt, and they got Joe Alt's a rookie. They got and another guy I think is a rookie on there. And then they have the guy they drafted last year. A couple years ago, Rashawn Slater.
Zion.
And they run a normal offense. They run a normal one motion guy under center. they run a normal offense, man. We don't.
That's the thing. This is what Chris has a good point in. This is this thing I've been saying forever. Dan Marino was way, way better than Kelly. Kelly was a good quarterback, solid.
Yeah.
But his team was just so much better. He had such a better team that Marino just couldn't contend.
Much better.
Everything.
They were better in the, they had they were. I don't want to say they were so much better because the Dolphins and Bills played each other. They were always the two teams are in it, and we played each other. They were close games for the most part, except from some of them, But
yeah, the postseason really they usually weren't. There was one, I think, close one, and most of them were like.
We won the division in '92 and hosted the AFC Championship game, and then they beat us that game. We went up there one year. It was like 44-34. It was just it was a freaking shootout, and I mean, it was just
snow. Remember that? That was a bad. That we were built. We didn't. If we'd only built like the '70s Dolphins around an awesome quarterback.
For that game was just one of them shootouts. Nobody could get their footing. It was just one of them. No defense showed up. They had a good defense, and Marino was torching them too. It was just like, they got a lead. Yeah, but they had a better team, I would say, absolutely. But I don't know if they were way better than the Dolphins. I mean, they were better though, for sure.
So what's our prediction here, guys?
Let me answer this last one. My eval has been the same since 2021. I don't really buy window dressing. A lot of people buy window dressing. I don't buy window dressing. I really try to do my best to evaluate in context. And so for me, whether we're 6-8 or 8-6, we're not going anywhere. We're not going to win against playoff teams. We're not built that way. For me, look, I don't know if it's right or wrong or whatever, but I start with the trenches on both sides of the ball. You need the rest of the units, but if those trenches are certain levels, especially if they're one-dimensional, that really puts a big crimp. Like we went into the season with Jones, who I've talked about for a couple of years, because it doesn't fit the system. It's like ridiculous. I don't like Brewer too much. The way we're constructed, I wouldn't mind him better with two good guards next to him, but he struggles with power. He's good at getting to the second level. There's somebody sent me something that was talking about him struggling making the calls, and that's why there's a lot of free blitzes. I don't know. I didn't vet the information. But he's functional to some degree, but I do believe he's limited, one-dimensional. Eichenberg, Jackson, who I'm not – people tell me Jackson's like awesome. He's not. He's like average. And then Tehran injured. And then we got Meyer, undrafted rookies, a backup center.
I bet he's a stud. I bet Meyer's a stud. And we just don't know.
Stud. Yeah. So for me, it's like it didn't really matter. Last year, even after people would like call me an idiot after we had run for all these yards against the Giants and the Broncos. I'm like, nah, I don't buy it. I said this, and people are like, you're so stupid. You're an idiot.
I disagreed with you. I was like, no, man, I just watched that game. I'm watching what we're doing outside. This is legendary. Yeah.
I know what do you want?
It wasn't like a dominant run game. It wasn't that dominant type of run game, but we had a good run game. I would way better. It was way better with the way everything meshed together. And I just think that, it wasn't all on Tua last year. You know what I'm saying? I think that's why our offense was so successful, is because we were successful in other areas last year, to where our offense, even though it wasn't sustainable and it's not going to, win like I said, dominate any other team. I just think that's why we were more successful last year, is because, we had that balance.
Well, what the thing is, though, for me, from my evaluation, I'm not saying it's whatever. I'm just saying from my evaluation, I match up. Like I looked at our offensive line, I look at our opposition, and I saw that they had flaws, they were weak, they had holes. And I said, is this not – even in preseason, we had like two big games. And I'm like, I want to see how we do against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And they washed us out. I'm like, this is not a good sign. You don't know what you're talking about, Curtis. And I'm like, guys, you have to take their skill sets. And how does that translate against other teams? So you go against a team that doesn't have, like the Denver Broncos, when we played them, they had nobody up front. They were like wrecked. You know what I mean? Like, so how does that translate? We went against the Giants. They had no offense. The secondary was good. They had a good front, but that was it. You know, like, how does this stuff translate? Like, what's the matchup? What does this mean long term? And you know, for me, I next build or whatever, I could be totally wrong, get everything wrong. But for this one, it was like so easy because you could see we can't move anybody. Like, if that's the very first thing I do, I say, if this team's in the phone booth, can they win it? If they can't win in the phone booth, they're not going anywhere. And we can't win in the phone booth. We got to make everybody move and everything match. And then, like, and still don't work. So if you can't win in the phone booth, you can't win.
What would you consider a build? Like, because we're like, this team as constructed, like, we might get rid of, like, let's just throw a name out there, like Tyreek or something. We might get rid of him, but at the same time, we're not in a position to rebuild right now. We're probably 2-3 years away from a rebuild, like, where we could completely tear it all down. Like the Patriots, to me right now, they have a ton of draft picks, ton of cap space, and they just got their quarterback. So I think the Patriots actually can do a lot more than we can in the next 3-4 years. I don't know if they'll win more games. Well, who knows how it works out, but the Patriots actually have more assets and more ability to rebuild their roster right now around their quarterback and, you know, whoever they want to keep than I think the Dolphins do. Because right now we're going to be dependent on how we draft this year. Next year.
For me, I'm going to do a podcast on rebuilding the Dolphins. I do a podcast on the type of offense we should have built around Tua. I would start off, you're going to keep Paul. You got to keep him. I would keep Brewer. I'd keep Jones. I'd move him to right guard. I'd move ourselves to inside zone system. I would keep Jackson, but I would move off from ASAP and get another guy behind him working to push him. I'd focus on left guard. I'd focus on depth on the offensive line. I'd try to find a real 3-tool tight end in the 3rd or 4th round. I wanted to draft Kraft. I screamed about it, and he's on the Packers. There's guys, you just got to find the guys that give you a good chance. You want to move back and acquire more talent. And so I would get rid of Hill instantly. You can trade him, and you can get, like, post-June, you can trade him, and like, I think it's pretty decent. I think you gain 14, lose 9. I would trade him instantly. I would stick with Waddle. I try to find another receiver in the 3rd round or the 2nd round, a big, tall guy to match him if I couldn't get the tight. It'd be tight end first. I'd find if I could find a 3-tool tight end, that'd be the very first thing I would draft, even over an offensive lineman, because the key for teams to build is finding offensive linemen in the 2nd and to 6th round. If you find guys that are functional, whether it's depth or whether it's starters in the 2nd to 6th round, dude, it's like magnifies your team, especially if you're finding starters in the 3rd to 5th round. That's like a huge asset. But it's tight end, 3-tool tight end. More offensive linemen, get yourself a little system, a farm system where you got guys like you look right now at Williams. He's out for the 49ers, but they got Jalen or whatever. Jalen, what the heck the guy's name is? Jalen Moore. Who is he? He had a little bit of action. You saw some action last year, and this year he's having a rock and roll session. They drafted Pooney in the 3rd round. So you could turn this thing around, and Jones could be functional. You just got to move to inside zone, have him play right guard. You have the protection, protect him and Jackson, who needs the protection, and hopefully Paul turns out to be something. And you just get yourself some more tight end play, and then you build this offensive line and this offense. Because you got Jalen Wright. He's a very talented player, but he's a one-cut inside guy. So by running more inside zone and getting yourself the tight ends and the offensive line, now you're going to be able to control the phone booth. You're going to have time of possession. It's going to help your defense, and you're going to maximize Achane. You're going to maximize Jalen Wright, who you've invested in, and you're going to maximize your legitimate play action where Tua can work his quick release off, and you're protecting him. You get to pass balance. That's the new cycle. And again, I got to say it because for years, people are telling me I'm a moron. The new cycle is pass balance. That's what it is. That's the sweet spot. You've got to be able to stop it on defense. That means you got to get another DT in here. You got to work on your interior game. You got to work on your middle linebacker and your safeties. But you can pick these guys up. Look at Amon St. Ra. We drafted 2 first-round draft picks for Waddle, and he was taken in the 4th round, and he's got more production.
Bro, I wanted him that year, bro. I said, I know we drafted Waddle in the 1st, and I said we should draft him in the 5th, or we should draft him. I didn't say the 5th round, but I said we should draft Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Was he a 5th or 4th round? Was he 5th or 4th round?
I think he's the 4th round.
Oh, okay, because he was projected round. But I loved, dude, that guy was, man, I loved him at USC, bro. I said Amon-Ra St. Brown, bro. I wanted Waddle and him that year in that draft.
This is what bothers me. See, like Van Ginkel is a steal for your team. You got to find – this is where Grier fails. He sucks in the middle rounds. He sucks in the middle. I mean, he fails in the 1st round. Sometimes he hits. Sometimes he fails. But he does okay in the UDFAs, better than you'd think. But he sucks in the middle. You got Van Ginkel for peanuts, and you don't want him. You had to get Chubb. We got to get middle round. That's why the good teams, they'll trade back and they'll get those middle round picks, and they fire, and they got good scouting staff, and they'll hit a number of them. And that just like it's, we didn't do that. We started doubling up our picks, moving up, throwing picks away, failing in the mid rounds. You could turn this team around very, very easily. I'm not saying Super Bowl, but once you move to inside zone and more physical with tight ends, you start developing consistency, and you can play on the road in different environments. All the outside zone stuff is very, very tough. You need a stud center. And despite other people, my value, Brewer's not a stud center because you can't move guys. He gets moved. And so the outside zone is very finicky. Inside, you want some outside zone, but you got to have some inside zone because it's straightforward. It's more consistent. You could kind of stay on schedule, and you could travel more. Outside
I think my theory on what. No, I think the UDFA's hit because he is so bad at drafting in the middle.
Yeah, we need him to hit. We got to play.
Right, that's better than the draft picks.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And some of them were pretty good, but some of them I think were a little bit of hype too.
Got to be a philosophical change in the organization.
Huge.
I don't know. They need to get like a guy like Mike Munchak or something to come coach this. I mean, they gotta do something, and they gotta I don't know. They gotta change their ways, and I just don't know how.
You can look. Peyton's a genius, or he's extremely brilliant. One or the other. How do they turn that team around with nothing? I mean, they got a little lucky to get Knicks at 15 or whatever they got him, but I forgot like 90 million in dead cap or something like that. We got 53.
Yeah,
but they decide. If you notice, you watch the way Peyton designs. He puts guys in position. He plays the small ball. He runs. And that is a thing we mentioned before. I didn't mention. I did a study. I've learned so much since I started doing this job. I did not know as much football until I started. I studied Gailey the year we had him. And I learned so much from his ability to stick to the run game and how he would use runs in that first drive to help him out later in that quarter, later in that half, in the second half, and how stringing together all those runs and games would help him in following games. And there's small ball, and then there's the micro and the macro. And the best OCs, they're patient and they understand, hey, you know what? This run, it might get me 2 or 3, and they're going to have a semi-manageable second down. But I got to do that because then next drive, that DC saying, hey, I got to watch out for that run. I got to pay attention to that. And it's buying some time. It's chewing up some clock. And I keep track of my time of possession and how many runs I have. There's huge conversation that the number of runs is actually the most important quantity. If you're able to be effective on offense and continue to run that football, the number of runs is actually almost as important as the actual production.
It feels that way too. It feels that way when you're watching a game, man. you run it 7 times in the second half and you have no run game, you just feel like you're going to lose the game. You feel like everything's against you. But if you can just pound the rock and take 4 minutes off, even if you get in field goal range, you wore the defense. I mean, the positives are immeasurable when it seems to have a legitimate run game. To me, a physical run game, like you could have Lamar Jackson playing the worst game he's ever played, and he's 10 for 35. It doesn't matter if you can run the ball with Gus Edwards and whoever the hell you got. Like, you're just in the game. You're always in the game.
Well, Lamar also offers the threat to run too, so that kind of opens up a little the run too. You know, account for him as well. That's what I mean by like when a defense has to account for the quarterback. That really does. That's why a lot of teams are always looking for that dual threat quarterback. It's funny though, but it's funny that you mentioned changing blocking schemes up, because I also follow the Seahawks. Like Seahawks are kind of one of my other teams I like to root for. But that Mike McDonald, that he was actually just talking like a week or two ago about how, because they've been struggling this year big time running the ball, and they have one of the best running backs in the game, Kenneth Walker. Got another guy I wanted out of Michigan State, but they had, you know, he said a couple weeks ago, and this was with their backup running back, who they also drafted last year in the second round, Zach Charbonnet. They said, they changed the blocking schemes, and this is week 13 or 12 it was a couple weeks ago when they were and you're changing your blocking schemes, and it just goes that's because they're realizing what they're doing is not working.
Yeah.
But do they say, we can't run the ball and that's it? You know what I'm saying? They say, they don't say, well, we can't run the ball, so we got to throw more. They say, no, let's do this. Let's do, it's called the adjustments. It's called
the whole adjustment thing.
Yeah. Like, if it doesn't work, let's try this. Maybe it doesn't work. Who knows? But you try it. I don't know. And I think the Dolphins, but unfortunately, we paid 2 receivers. We paid the quarterback. We that's where the money's at on this team. That's where the investment was made in speed and passing. The investment wasn't made in running the ball. They got a bunch of small.
Not just that, just the picks too. 2 first rounds on Waddle, and then was it first 2 seconds? Was it 2?
Yeah.
2 seconds for Hill? I can't remember, but it was
a lot. It's like 5 picks.
All those picks. I mean, then you got to figure your second and third for Eichenberg, second for Rosen, third for Dieter, a Chubb. You played a first and a third or something like that. I mean, that's one player, but it could be more. It could be 2 or 3 players, but it's just one player. And then when you get a guy like Chubb who was 2 picks and all that money, it sucks all that down and draining. It's not even being utilized. And so we wasted so much. It's mind-blowing.
It's draft capital. You can't pay twice. It's one thing to do it once in a blue moon, like where you pay for a guy like Tyreek or something, but we did it with Bradley Chubb. We did it with Tyreek. Now we did it with Ramsey, where we traded the third round and them all new contracts. And it's like, instead of keeping our own guys, drafting our own players and developing, and even if we don't need the picks, you're going to need, with the injuries this team had, just imagine what they could have did with 6 more picks. And I know Ross lost a first and a fourth or so, whatever. Ross, but I mean, look, I don't blame Ross for trying to get Tom Brady and Sean Payton. He's an owner, old man. I actually don't blame the guy for that, bro. If I'm the owner of the Dolphins, bro, I'm gonna go after the best of the best. If I get busted, I get busted. So be it, bro. It's my team. I actually don't blame him as much for that, but whatever. The point is, it's just all the calamity of everything added up is just why this organization is where it's at right now.
So are we beating the 49ers, guys?
No.
I don't know, man. Maybe they do. Maybe at home. Who knows? I mean, if the 49ers don't come to play, but if all things are equal, I think the Niners are gonna. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the Dolphins. I'd like to see. I'd like them to prove me wrong, though. I'd like to see the Dolphins come out with energy, but I would say the Niners, and I'd say like 30-17 or so. I think Niners gonna win by 10 plus.
If we scored 12 points again, I wouldn't be surprised. So
yeah,
but
our defense has given up 25 over the last 3 games. They're scoring 18. but they're giving up. I think it's 18. And if you watch them play the Rams, the Rams have a good offensive line. It's a healthy, and that was a physical. That defense is still slamming. So I think we lose. I think they'll be like.
The Bills game was a blizzard. Last week was like a rain. It was a rain monsoon game. Yeah, it was like
it was raining. Not super heavy, but it was raining.
Purdy's like that too. Hey, look at the Niners. Purdy, he struggles in those conditions like that too. So that's why they're going to have this decision the Dolphins had. You know, like you look at quarterbacks like that, they not the best in those conditions like that. You know, and Purdy's another example of like Tua. I was like, that's why he was taken in the 7th round. You know, he's still a great value, but at the same time, it's like when you have to pay him, that's when everything changes. Like Tua, Tua would not get he's going to get criticized because he's starting quarterback, but he would not get. I don't think he would get as much criticism. He wouldn't get as much criticism if he was not like now that he got that. You know, now that he's being a highly paid quarterback, and it just comes with it, bro. You know, that's the way it goes, fair or unfair.
Yeah,
and he's not. It's not all on him, but you know that's how it goes when you're a highly paid, polarizing quarterback. You know, you get the attention. Brock Purdy gets blamed a lot, and he's not even, you know, a lot of times not always his fault, but you know, there's bad games.
We're gonna wake up Christmas morning and we're gonna get some great news that there's gonna be huge turnover. So guys, get your hopes up. It's gonna be great. Don't worry about Sunday. It's happening. It's happening, guys. Merry Christmas.
That's right. Amen. All right, so everyone just give a quick score. What do you think the score is going to be, Cody?
Well, 12-20. Let's just do a replay of every goddamn game we've done in the last 2 years, right?
I like the cat. Jason. Cool. You said 30-17?
30-17 Niners.
I'll say 24-17. 24-17. I'm not really good at this, so don't quote me on it. I do think we'll lose, though. I think that they just have too much. That pass defense without Waddle is going to be tough. So anyway, guys, I appreciate everybody in the comments. I'm trying to get to them all. I was just trying to listen to Jason and Cody, and my brain was fried. But you guys had some really great stuff. I try to answer on the side. I appreciate it. Jason, you're a real smart guy. I appreciate you coming on. Cody, too. I appreciate you guys carrying me through this. I was a little bit light on energy today, so you guys.
It's good, guys. Thank you.
So anyway, everybody have a very, very, very Merry Christmas. I don't think I'm going to be doing a live next week. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Happy,
huh?
Yes.
Merry Christmas, happy birthday, and happy anniversary to you.
Oh, thanks, guys. Yeah. It's the trifecta. The trifecta. Everybody, be well. Thank you so much, Curtis, Cody, and Jason. Saying, catch you next time.
Take care.